talking to any of you who might be suffering from a chronic condition and are off work. So anybody who's like off work or laid off or has some kind of downtime. So if you're unemployed, laid off, you have leave from work for other reasons, say maybe you're taking care of elderly parents, or if you're on mat leave, or if you've recently graduated and you still haven't landed that job yet, and you're at home and you don't know what to do with your time, or if you're retired and you're now trying to figure out, who am I? You have to redefine yourself, and at this time you got a lot of downtime. Or you might be self-employed and maybe your business is getting slow, or maybe you have these times where you don't have anything to do. So I have 5 tips for you on how to cope with that, because that is a really serious thing. And this kind of stuff can come upon us at any time. The first time that, well, not the very first time, but I know this came upon me when I was just starting working from home when we had the pandemic. So we had like over a year where we were just working entirely from home. So that changed. Like, it wasn't downtime, but it was a total change from what I was doing before, where I was going into the clinic and and working there and then coming home. So when you're working from home all the time, it's so different. Because your work and your life are kind of merged together. And I realized, like, sometimes that like, the time would go by, I would start doing some work first thing in the morning when I got up while I was drinking my tea, and the hours would fly by, and I realized it's 11 o'clock and I haven't even brushed my teeth yet. And it's like, okay, I need to develop some sort of routine, something to keep me focused and on track with things to do. So I thought about that, and I figured out some ways to do that. And so now I am on medical leave. I've been on medical leave for a year, and because of my condition, I can't have like a full day routine kind of thing, but I can have like a semi routine that works for me. And I find that's really important. If I didn't have that, then my day and night would be all mixed up. And I know people who are like that, who have been on leave, and whose their meal times are all screwed up, and they don't go to bed at a regular time, and they can't get enough sleep because their schedule's all screwed up. So this will hopefully be something, if this is something that you've experienced or feel like you will experience or are experiencing right now, hopefully these tips will help get you on some kind of track and help you have a better experience during this downtime that you have. So now for the steps. So the first one is, find something you can do that takes time. And now you don't have to worry about finding time, making everything fit into this little box of time that you have. Now you want to spread it out more. So think of things that take time. So for me, I, go for a walk, and I will, just think, okay, so at 9 o'clock, I'm going to go for a walk, and that might take me an hour or whatever. And if I want to stop along the way, I will do that. And then, you come back whenever, and then figure out what time you're going to have your meals, and think about, like, maybe do you have any errands to run in the afternoon, and just think of the time that you'll be doing that and put that into your schedule. And it's important too to have a schedule where you are getting up at a certain time and going to bed at a certain time, even though you don't need to do that, and you could fluctuate a little bit. The nice thing about having this downtime is you can it's fake schedule, right? And so you don't have to adhere to it all the time, and so you can adjust it and play with it a little bit. But it's important to have something kind of like a structure down there, where you have regular meal times and regular getting up and doing certain things at certain times. And given your unique circumstances, you might need to fit in things that come unexpectedly, right? For me, when my symptoms are pretty bad, I might need to spend the afternoon laying in bed. Uh, and I don't have to feel guilty about that. I don't need to make up time in doing something else because I am on medical leave, and that's the reason why I'm on medical leave. And so I will do that, and that is, I don't have to worry about it. But I was planning on going and doing something else. So, this kind of stuff is it's flexible. And I did speak to quite a few people during the pandemic, and when they were working at home, and yeah, how their routines were very upset. And a lot of them said to me that they had gained weight during the pandemic, and quite a bit actually. And it's because they were being indoors a lot. If you're working from home, you're just basically sitting and all day at that same spot if you don't need to get out. Whereas before, they might have been taking transit, or at least they walk into their car and maybe walking a couple of blocks to get into the place that they work, or even walk into work or bike into work. But they don't have to do that then. So if you don't have that commuting and the activities associated with that commuting, realize that that's not in there. And um and also, when you're at home, you have access to food during times that you wouldn't normally have that access to food. Like during the day when you're at work, you normally don't have, food at your disposal. Well, a lot of people don't, some do, but normally what you'd be doing is packing a lunch or deciding what you're going to have for lunch. So if you would normally pack a lunch to go to work, maybe it's a good idea to pack a lunch to have at home. And if that lunch was good enough for you while you were at work, then it's probably good enough for you while you are at home. If you have this tendency, if you're off work, you kind of panic, well, I'm going to be off work for a month. What am I going to do? I'm afraid I'm going to gain some weight, or I'm afraid I'm just going to get out of shape. So, if you did have a half-hour commuting time, when you were working, then maybe you can take that time to go for a walk or do some kind of activity. I don't know the reason why you are off work right now. But if you can do some sort of activity during that time, then why not? And why not put that in your schedule? At least to do 3 or 4 out of the 5 days. Okay, so that's number one. Have some kind of a daily routine. And number two, make adjustments in your life path if you feel like that is necessary or desired. If you feel like you were in a job where you were thinking, well, maybe I was thinking about changing careers, or maybe even taking a course, or doing something. Um, Now you don't really, and you didn't have time to do it. Now you don't have an excuse not to do that. So you can start thinking about it now. Might not be the time to just jump into action, especially if you're on medical leave, or for other reasons that you just can't possibly do that. But this is the time to maybe sit down and think, am I going in the path that I want? Maybe I want to make some changes. Maybe I want to take a course. Maybe I want to learn French. Something, but maybe not. Um, but this is a really good time to sit down and think about it. And if you are happy with the path that you are on, then you can think about that and say, yeah, I'm doing what I was meant to do, and what I feel like I want to be doing. And so you have that reassurance that you're going in the right direction. All right, so that's number two. Number three, enjoy the downtime. That doesn't happen all the time. Most of us crave having downtime, and then when we get it, we go, ah, now what am I supposed to do? I don't want this. I've just been, my business is really slow, and I'm taking a month off, and Well, wasn't it really, really busy a couple of months ago and you were wanting to have time off? Now you got that time off. Take advantage of it. Enjoy it. And you don't have to be productive every minute of every day. You can take that time to just spend with your dog if you want, or if you have a dog, and I'm sure your dog will love that too. Mine doesn't like getting pictures taken, apparently. He like moves his head out of the way. But anyway, and you don't have to feel guilty about enjoying that time off. And even if you want to just go and like, I don't know what I'm going to do this afternoon, and it's good to have like a sort of a false routine, but there are times where maybe I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go and sit on a bench, and I'm going to take maybe a notebook, a pad and paper, or something, and just take notes of how I feel. Like start a journal or something like that. But I'm just going to go and sit on a bench and relax, and I'll come back when I feel like it. So you have the opportunity to do that then. And number 4, realize that everything happens for a reason. I know that's kind of like this cliche sort of thing, but it does. There's nothing random that happens in our world. It seems like it does, but it really doesn't. You might not believe that, but I totally, totally, totally believe that everything happens for a reason and everything is meant to be. And so just realize that, yeah, this is meant to be. I was meant to have this downtime right now. And very much related to that, try connecting to spirit if you haven't already. Uh, we are all spiritual. You might not be religious. Religion and spirituality are two totally different things. And so, where you may or may not be religious, you might not have any religion at all. That's okay. You're still spiritual. And connecting to spirit can be something like meditation, doing yoga, even just getting out into nature and enjoying what our world has for us. And everybody loves to do that. Everybody feels that kind of calm, sort of interconnectedness when we are in nature, or surrounded by trees and green and birds and insects and everything else, all those little sounds that you hear, uh, everything that you see and you can smell and hear. All of that is part of connecting to spirit. And if you can do that and do that regularly, it's really, really good for our well-being. It's very good for our health. And finally, number 5, stay connected to others. It's easy when you are on leave, you're not connected to your work, especially if your downtime means that you don't have the money coming in. You might feel like you can't get out and you can't do the things that you would do that everybody else is doing. And if you're sick, then you also can't get out and do the things that other people are doing. So it makes it kind of hard, right? And it's easy for us to just stay inside in front of the TV, or just sitting around feeling sorry for ourselves. Please, please don't do that. But you might not be able to get up and get around, and you might not feel good enough to get out, depending on what is going on in your life. But you can give somebody a phone call. You can give a family member a phone call, a friend, even if you just to say, look, I'm just kind of checking in. I'm doing fine. I just ask them how they are, just 10 minutes. And so even put that into your calendar so that you don't forget or you just don't feel like it and say, just not going to bother. Please, please, please do that, because the more you do that, the more you're going to tend to do it, and the more you're just going to slip away from other people. And if you are on kind of chronic long-term disability, or if you are, retired, or if you're, just away from the people who you would normally be around, you don't want to be that person that just sits there and nobody even knows they're there, and they don't even know if you're alive or not. Seriously, this kind of stuff can happen. And yeah, I'll just I wasn't planning on telling you this, but I will. Yeah, in 2015, my brother, he went for a couple of weeks vacation, and he was gonna he was in like a small town in Saskatchewan, and he was gonna buy himself a house, put a down payment on a house. He was living in an apartment, and he was going to do that. And the family, no family and friends weren't around, and nobody lived around him. And it wasn't until 2 weeks later, when he didn't show up for work for his first day, that people at work thought, oh, that's kind of weird. And they went to his house, and apparently he must have passed away during the first couple of days. Nobody even knew. And his body was basically rotting in his apartment, and he died all by himself, you know, alone, and it just not in a good state. And so nobody wants to do that. And so, you don't want to be that person. And so it's really important to to keep those connections open, even if it's like just a phone call, or just like a knock on a door. And, and other people who might be, having that kind of, the being a recluse, just go in and see if they're okay. Just to knock on the door, say hi, just checking in, and just give them an update on yourself, and ask them how they are, and just like 5 or 10 minutes. It's not a big deal. All right, so those are the 5 tips to stay engaged with the world and cope with long-term downtime. And another thing, yeah, to find something to do. And obviously, I have found YouTube videos to do. And so this takes a little bit of my time, and I'm really enjoying it. And I'm hoping to do quite a few more. And yeah, so I just want to say thank you for watching.